Arizona Senator John McCain is calling for a select committee to investigate Russian interference in American politics and allegations of collusion with the Trump campaign. The 2008 Republican presidential candidate joins us from the Capitol. Senator, good morning. Good to see you.
Good morning.
Let me ask you about what Chairman Nunes has done. Do you think it was appropriate that he went to go view these so-called intelligence reports on White House grounds?
Well, I think there needs to be a lot of explaining to do. I've been around for quite a while, and I've never heard of any such thing. And obviously, in a committee like an intelligence committee, you've got to have bipartisanship. Otherwise, the committee loses credibility. And so there's so much out there that needs to be explained by the chairman. And look, if this is a very serious issue. It all started with Russian interference, attempt to change the outcome of our election. And so it's turning into a centipede like these things have a tendency of doing, and another shoe seems to drop every few days.
And I know that's why you have called for a select committee, an independent committee, because of the seriousness of these allegations. Should Chairman Nunes reveal his source?
Well, absolutely. I can't imagine why not. And I also believe that the entire committee should be engaged. The reason why the Armed Services Committee honestly is successful is we work in a bipartisan fashion. Senator Burr and Senator Warner on our Intelligence Committee here in the Senate work closely together. They may have differences, but you've got to have a bipartisan approach to an issue such as this if you want to be credible.
So, Senator, if you look at what he has done so far, there are demands by Democrats that he recuse himself. Does John McCain think he should recuse himself?
I would leave that decision to the leadership of the House committee, of the Republicans in the House, probably Paul Ryan. But there's no doubt that, look, it's dominating the news. It is an issue of utmost importance, and something's got to change. Otherwise, the whole effort in the House of Representatives will lose credibility. I mean, that's just obvious.
You've also said that President Trump needs to address this issue. What do you want to hear from him at this point? And have you had any face-to-face meetings with him? Would you like to?
Well, I think there's a reception tonight over at the White House, and I'm sure I may encounter him in there. But
are you invited?
Yeah. Are you?
I think so.
What would you like to hear from the president, Senator, at this point in time?
Well, first of all, I'd like to go back to the latest debacle, and that is that when the Democrats rammed through Obamacare, they did it on a strict partisan basis. We did not include the Democrats in negotiations on Obamacare. The issue is not going away. It's imploding. In Arizona, Obamacare is imploding. We've got to go back and address this issue on a bipartisan basis, and we can't wait till people are without health care. So, and now we got to move on to tax reform. I would say first thing you should do is maybe bring that couple of $1 trillion back to the United States at a lower tax rate, and then you can work on infrastructure, and you can sit down together. We've got to have some bipartisanship around here. Otherwise, we're not going to get much done, and we've got another government shutdown looming, as you know. These are not good times.
Can I just go back to the Russian interference in American elections? You have said in some cases this is worse than any single terrorist attack. Dick Cheney has said this morning that in some quarters that would be considered an act of war. What is the next shoe to drop? What do you fear coming out of this?
It's hard for me to predict, because I never would have predicted the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee doing what he did. But I think that there is more information out there. There is more ties to Russia. There is more engagement with false information. There is a lot more associated with Russian attempts to affect our election, but there's also a lot of other Russian activities going on. For example, right now, they're attempting to affect the outcome in France.
Well, what about the demonstrations in Russia right now?
Well, I think it's magnificent, and it shows that young people, particularly in Russia, are not satisfied with this corrupt thug continuing to run their country, and I think it's a great thing. But I also think we're not paying much attention, Charlie, to the fact that he's murdering people, having people thrown off balconies, having guys shot who was in Ukraine, a Russian who's in Ukraine. Where's the, to use an old phrase, where's the outrage?
Mm-hmm. So what do you want the president to do and this administration to do more than simply show outrage or express outrage?
Look, sanctions, more sanctions on Russia. Obviously, they tried to subvert the fundamental of democracy, and that's a free and fair election. We need more sanctions against Russia. We need to provide lethal defensive weapons to Ukraine. We need to have more military presence in the Balkans. We need to set up a counter to the very successful misinformation campaign and propaganda campaign that they're waging, particularly in Eastern Europe.
Senator, can I ask you, officials reported yesterday that North Korea has carried out another test of a rocket engine that U.S. officials believe could be part of a larger program. What needs to be done? How urgent is the North Korean threat?
I think it's the most urgent threat that we are facing right now, because if you have this rotund ruler whose behavior is obviously not rational, with a missile, with a nuclear weapon on it that can reach the United States of America, that's just not a risk that we could take. And we have to prepare for certain eventualities. But frankly, the key to this is China. China could shut down North Korea tomorrow. And we should gauge some of our relationship with China based on them bringing North Korea under control.
But if that doesn't work, if the Chinese will not help, in fact, then they do have deliverable capability from ICBMs to deliver a nuclear missile to the west coast of the United States. Would you recommend the president take military action to eliminate that possibility?
Charlie, I think before I would recommend that, I'd have to know exactly what's going on. But under that scenario that you just described, I don't see how it's acceptable to have a situation like that where a person of not rational behavior, he doesn't think like us, to have that kind of capability and with his finger on the trigger. I'm not saying we should go to war with them, but we should be accelerating our ability to counter it.
All right, Senator, we'll look forward to talking to you again, maybe after the reception tonight. We'll know a little bit more. We talk about partisanship, but the Republicans have some healing to do among themselves, too. You all can have a good old get-together tonight. Thank you very much.
We know what a good time is.
All right.
See you.
Invite him to Arizona,
Yes.
for goodness.
Thank you very much for joining us this morning.